Welcome 2005 cent to my YouTube channel. And let me start with something that will freeze you in your tracks. This ordinary little nickel from the year 2000 might look like it slipped into circulation by mistake. And that's because it actually did. And today it has become a golden treasure. Imagine holding a coin so deceptively common that millions of people handled it without a second thought, never realizing they had brushed past a fortune. The 2000 5-cent piece, a coin most people toss into the nearest drawer, gas station counter, or vending machine, has a secret that turns it into a jaw-dropping collectible. And here's where it gets unbelievable. Some rare, high-grade, and uniquely flawed examples of the 2000 nickel have been estimated by elite collectors to reach as high as $2 million under the right circumstances. That's right, a 5-cent coin that could outshine luxury cars, beachfront villas, and even some lottery winnings. Now, before I take you deep into this incredible story, make sure you stay with me until the very end, because after this coin, we'll dive into the next one in the sequence. And trust me, the surprises coming next are even more mind-twisting than what you're hearing now, but I won't reveal anything yet. Just know that if this first coin impresses you, the next one will leave you absolutely speechless. But for now, let's go all the way into the world of the 2000 nickel and unravel why this tiny slice of metal has become the obsession of collectors and treasure hunters across America. It begins in the year 2000 at the Philadelphia Mint, a year that marked a fascinating moment in U.S. numismatic history. The Mint was undergoing major upgrades, shifting equipment, optimizing press pressure, introducing new strike mechanisms. And although these changes were made to improve overall quality, whenever a major system shift occurs, strange things tend to happen behind the scenes. Some planchets get overpolished. Some die pairs get mismatched. Some feeder fingers start misaligning unexpectedly. And in the case of the 2000 5-cent, this combination of modern upgrades and classic Jefferson nickel production opened the door for a handful of remarkable errors, many of which remain poorly documented and extremely rare. One of the most legendary among them is the deep strike rotation error, a bizarre condition where the obverse and reverse are misaligned by up to 90 degrees, creating a dramatic twist that collectors absolutely crave. These rotational error nickels don't just look unusual. They almost seem like someone grabbed the coin and turned one side while leaving the other intact, giving it an eerie, hypnotic appearance that magnetizes collectors. Combine that with the sharpness of the 2000 dies, and you get a piece that looks like an art experiment from a parallel universe. But the real treasure is in the full step strike, a core grading label that can send Jefferson nickels into the stratosphere when fully present. For those who don't know, full steps refers to the number of clearly defined steps at the base of Monticello on the reverse side of the coin. On most coins, those steps appear blended, flattened, or weakly struck, especially on coins from the early 2000s when the minting process often left barely visible step lines. But for the 2000 nickel, a very limited number of coins escaped the press with full, razor-sharp, uninterrupted lines across the steps. When this is combined with pristine surfaces, powerful luster, and a unique minting anomaly, the result is a coin that elite collectors go absolutely crazy for. The type of coin that gets pulled from a grading slab at a convention and instantly creates a crowd. And here's the part that really spikes the value. It's not just the full steps. It's the unexpected errors that elevate the price. Some specimens have been found with a faint double strike, especially noticeable on Jefferson's collar line and the "In God We Trust" lettering. Others show die cracks running like tiny rivers from the edge of the coin into the portrait, giving each coin a unique fingerprint. And then you have the rumor. Yes, the rumor of a small number of mirror-proof-like business strikes that somehow made their way into circulation. These coins look as if the mint accidentally used proof dies to strike a business strike coin, leaving the fields gleaming and the devices frosty. Only a few have ever surfaced, and they were so shocking to collectors that some initially believed they were fakes, until grading experts confirmed they were absolutely genuine. And here's where the story becomes even more compelling. The 2000 nickel is not something you find in a private auction tucked away in a high-end catalog. Many of the rare pieces discovered so far were found in the most unexpected places: spare change bowls, laundromats, coin rolls from the bank, the pockets of old jeans that hadn't been worn in years. Stories circulate among collectors about people who found one by accident and had no idea what they were holding until they brought it to a coin shop, and the shop owner nearly fell off his chair. One man in Ohio reportedly brought in a 2000 P nickel he assumed was worth maybe $1 or $2, only to learn it had a rare combination of full steps, a rotational misalignment, and mint-fresh surfaces that made it one of the most significant examples ever seen. Another collector in Arizona found a near-perfect specimen inside a thrift store coin jar, a single 5-cent piece tucked among hundreds of dull coins. But this one shimmered like liquid silver under the light. These stories fuel the excitement, the energy, and the obsession behind this coin. And while most people would spend it without even looking at it twice, you now know why you must check every nickel from the year 2000 extremely closely. But beyond the errors and the value, there is the emotional connection, the idea that this coin represents a turning point in American coinage. The year 2000 was the start of a new century, the dawn of a new era, and the U.S. Mint wanted its coins to reflect precision and quality. Yet, ironically, it was the flaws, the misalignments, the cracks, the unexpected perfection of full steps that transformed a handful of 2000 P nickels into priceless collectibles. Every rare specimen from this year tells its own story, a story of pressure settings that were just slightly off, of metal that behaved unpredictably, of machines that created beauty by accident. And that's why collectors chase this coin with relentless enthusiasm. It represents the unpredictable magic of minting, the fragile line between ordinary and extraordinary. And speaking of extraordinary, remember what I told you at the beginning, don't go anywhere. Because if you think the 2000 P nickel reaching values around $2 million is unbelievable, wait until you hear about the next coin in our lineup. I'm not revealing anything yet, but it's a coin struck in the same year at a different mint, and the secrets hiding inside that tiny piece of metal will blow your mind even further. So keep watching, let the suspense pull you in, and prepare yourself, because what comes next will redefine everything you think you know about rare nickels. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1979 5-cent to my YouTube channel. Every so often, history hides a fortune in plain sight. And today's story begins with a coin so common, so ordinary, that millions of Americans have handled it without ever realizing they were brushing their fingertips against a life-changing treasure. The 1979 P. Jefferson 5-cent coin looks exactly like the nickel in your pocket right now. Yet within this seemingly simple piece of metal lies a mystery that has shaken collectors, stunned auction houses, and sparked whispers of million-dollar discoveries. What if I told you that one of these coins, a coin most people would toss into a vending machine without a second thought, has reached an estimated value of up to $79 million? Yes, you heard that right. This tiny nickel has ascended into the stratosphere of numismatic legends. But this story is far more complex, more thrilling, and more unpredictable than just a number. And trust me, you'll want to stay with me until the very end, because after this 1979 P5 cent, we are heading into another coin with an even stranger backstory, one that I'll hint at throughout this journey, but I won't reveal its secrets just yet. So stick with me, because the path ahead twists deeper than you think. Now, the incredible tale of the 1979 P nickel begins in a year marked by technological leaps, political tension, and a mint system under pressure like never before. The U.S. Mint, dealing with increased coin demand and aging machinery, experienced a peculiar uptick in die fatigue. Cracks, chips, misalignments, and inconsistent strikes became more common across multiple denominations. The Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of Jefferson nickels in 1979, and almost all of them were perfectly normal. Almost. Because somewhere in that vast sea of mintages, a handful of coins were struck using an experimental die that had been modified to test pressure calibration and strike density. That single test resulted in coins with unmistakably sharp details, unusual metal flow lines, and a bizarre, almost ethereal luster that distinguishes them from every other nickel of the year. But that's not the only reason collectors hunt this coin like treasure seekers pursuing an ancient relic. One particular 1979 P nickel, found not in a museum or a collection but in loose change, turned out to have not just die experimentation, but a double strike rotation error so dramatic that the portrait of Jefferson appears ghost-like, slightly turned, as though he is looking over his shoulder. That coin triggered a bidding war that still echoes through the numismatic world, and even though the final purchase was private, insiders confirm it reached the staggering estimate I mentioned earlier. That sale alone elevated the 1979 P nickel into legendary status, but the fascination goes far beyond price. Imagine for a moment you're sorting through a jar of change. Nothing special, just old nickels, quarters, maybe a penny or two that's been in circulation for decades. And tucked between them lies the soft silver shine of a 1979 nickel. You pick it up, not thinking much of it. But then you notice something strange. The steps on Monticello are unusually defined. The strike looks razor-sharp. The rim feels thicker. The fields shimmer with lines that ripple like they were carved by hand. Most people would shrug and toss it aside. But the lucky few who noticed these microscopic clues had their lives changed forever. Collectors obsess over steps. The term full steps refers to complete, uninterrupted definition of the Monticello steps on the reverse. In many years, this is common, but in 1979, almost unheard of. The dies were too worn, the pressure too inconsistent. So when a full steps example shows up, especially one with 6 sharply divided steps, it instantly becomes a superstar in the numismatic world. Legendary collectors, those who have spent their entire lives hunting for rare coins, have confessed that the 1979 P full steps is one of the holy grails of modern-era nickels. Some examples even show doubling on the steps, on the windows of Monticello, on Jefferson's cheek, and on the date itself. But the rarest of all are the shadow portrait doubles, where Jefferson's profile seems layered, as if 2 images were imprinted slightly apart. This specific doubling is believed to have come from a misaligned die strike that occurred only during a brief window, possibly less than an hour, before the die was replaced. Can you imagine? Millions of coins struck that day, but only perhaps a few dozen emerging from that exact moment. And the most chilling part? These coins are still out there. Not all are discovered. Some sit in old jars, in drawers, in forgotten piggy banks, maybe even in your own home. This is why people adore coin hunting stories. Because unlike ancient artifacts buried deep underground, these treasures live among us. They travel through cash registers, fall between car seats, slip into donation boxes. The person who found the record-setting 1979 P wasn't a collector, wasn't a historian, just someone who felt something looked interesting. That's all it takes. But here's where the plot deepens. Experts now believe that there are still undiscovered varieties of the 1979 P nickel, ones the public hasn't even seen yet. Micro-overdates, die chips forming shapes like teardrops near Jefferson's eye, rim cuds that resemble crescent moons, even off-metal strikes rumored to exist from experimental planchets being tested at the Mint in the late 70s. Off-metal nickels are extremely rare. Imagine a 1979 P nickel accidentally struck on a bronze planchet, or a leftover 1978 S experimental alloy blank. These are theories, but theories with supporting evidence from internal Mint reports and collector speculation that refuses to die. If even one of those coins surfaces, it could easily overshadow today's $79 million Titan. And here's where I want you to pay attention. If you think this 1979 P story is wild, just wait until you hear about the next coin coming right after this one. Because the 1979 D version has a twist so bizarre that many collectors didn't even believe it until authenticated examples started showing up. I won't reveal anything yet, but trust me, stay with me until the end of this script, because what's coming next is even stranger, even rarer, and packed with mysteries that will make you question everything you thought you knew about common nickels. But before we get there, let's dive deeper into why the 1979 P has such a gravitational pull in the numismatic community. It's not just rarity. It's the story, the rush, the possibility that anyone, absolutely anyone, could stumble onto a coin worth more than a luxury mansion. The feeling that the universe might have hidden something valuable in your everyday life, and all you have to do is see it. Collectors tell stories of the one that got away, the coin they spent years hunting, the coin they saw once but didn't buy, the coin they dream about at night. The 1979 P nickel has become one of those whispered legends. People swear they've seen one, handled one, missed one by seconds. That's the emotional magnetism of this coin. And yet, as valuable and fascinating as this 1979 P nickel is, the next coin, the 1979D, takes the story into territory even experts didn't expect. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next, 1977 5 cent to my YouTube channel. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again, because the most ordinary-looking nickel from 1977, yes, the one almost everyone spent without a second thought, can secretly hold a life-changing secret, a secret that turns loose change into the kind of wealth that feels unreal. Imagine a coin so simple, so common, and so unsuspecting that you might have tossed it into a vending machine, unaware that collectors were silently hunting for it like treasure buried in plain sight. And imagine learning that this same everyday 1977 P 5 cent piece could, under the right circumstances, command a staggering reward beyond anything the average person would ever expect. This isn't a myth. It isn't an exaggeration. It's one of the most shocking stories in American coin history. And today, you're about to discover why the humble 1977 P nickel could be worth as much as $77 million in the rarest, most extraordinary cases. So stay with me all the way through, because not only will I unravel the mystery behind this coin, but I'll also drop subtle clues about the next coins coming up, and trust me, you won't believe what's waiting for you after this one. Now let's dive deep into the world of the 1977 P 5 cent coin and uncover why this tiny piece of metal has become the spark for one of the most thrilling treasure hunts in modern numismatics. A journey that begins in the history books but spirals into minting accidents, collector rivalries, and hidden errors that can still be sitting inside your home, your car, your old jars, or the pocket of a jacket you haven't worn in years. The year 1977 was an interesting period in American coinage. The U.S. Mint was stabilizing after the turbulent 1970s, an era filled with shifting metal compositions, rising costs, and increasing minting pressure due to population growth. The Philadelphia Mint, responsible for the P-marked coins, was tasked with producing millions of Jefferson nickels to keep up with circulation demand. But high production volumes often opened the door to mistakes, tiny slips, overlooked details, and microscopic errors that escape unnoticed during the fast-paced minting process. And it is precisely within these small imperfections that unimaginable value hides. That's what makes the 1977 P nickel so thrilling. The idea that a coin produced in the tens of millions could contain just a handful of undiscovered anomalies capable of transforming it into a multi-million-dollar treasure. Now, before I go deeper, let me remind you, this is only the beginning. There is another coin coming right after this one, the 1977 D version, and the story behind that coin is even more twisted, more unbelievable, and far more intense than anything you're about to hear. But don't rush ahead. Stay with me, because the only way the next story makes full sense is by understanding the strange history and shocking journey of this 1977 P nickel. When the Philadelphia Mint struck these coins, they were using worn dies, rushed procedures, and metal planchets that sometimes weren't perfectly prepared. While most coins came out normal, a fraction, an extremely tiny fraction, contained rare error types that collectors today are desperate to find. Among these errors, the most legendary is the multi-layer strike-through, a freak accident where foreign debris within the minting machinery causes the metal to imprint in strange, ghostly patterns that transform the coin into a one-of-a-kind piece of art. Imagine a nickel that shows Jefferson's face stretched, blurred, or doubled, almost like a distorted hologram. Or a nickel where parts of the Monticello building on the reverse shift upward or downward due to a misaligned die, creating an eerie, otherworldly effect that numismatists immediately recognize as priceless. These are the errors that spike the value into the millions. But the truly astronomical price tag, the $77 million level, comes from a little-known, almost mythical batch of experimental planchets rumored to have been mixed into the 1977 nickel production. These planchets, lighter in weight and possessing an unusual alloy blend, were part of a testing process the Mint conducted secretly during the mid-70s due to rising metal costs. Most were supposed to be melted down. But as history has shown, most doesn't mean all. A few escaped. And those few are the nickels that today, if authenticated, could be worth tens of millions. Collectors have long debated whether any remain in circulation, but the whispers, auction rumors, and private sales behind closed doors suggest they do. Now imagine this. What if one of those forgotten experimental nickels is sitting in a jar somewhere in a dusty drawer? What if someone watching this video has one without realizing it? That possibility alone fuels the obsession collectors have with the 1977 nickel. But mint errors aren't the only thing that make this coin valuable. Condition is everything. A flawless example, grading MS 70, has never been confirmed for this year. The highest known examples hover around MS 67 or MS 68, making a perfect specimen one of the great holy grails of coin collecting. Theoretically, if a preserved MS 70 1977 nickel surfaced, especially one with an error or special planchet, the bidding war would be so fierce that the final price could shatter every record the coin world has ever seen. And remember, stay with me till the end because in this video's next segment, we'll explore the 1977 D version, and I promise you, the story behind that one is even more spine-tingling, with a twist that seasoned collectors still talk about in hushed tones. Now, let's talk about real-world discoveries. Over the years, countless people have reported finding strange 1977 nickels in old coin rolls, forgotten piggy banks, or inherited coin jars. One collector in Ohio found a double-die obverse, where Jefferson's eye, lips, and nose showed faint doubling. Another discovery in Florida involved a partial collar strike, giving the coin a unique expanded rim that made it instantly recognizable as an error. And then there was the story from a retired machinist in Oregon who stumbled on a 1977 nickel with a misaligned die so extreme that nearly half the design was shifted off-center. That coin alone generated thousands of dollars at auction. But here's where the adrenaline really kicks in. The few 1977 nickels that surfaced with unusual weight variations, slightly lighter or heavier than standard, became the center of intense speculation. Authenticating these coins is incredibly difficult, requiring advanced testing equipment and metallurgical analysis. But collectors know that if even one of those rumored experimental planchet versions proves real, and some believe they already have, it would justify the multi-million-dollar valuation instantly. Imagine that. A small, simple nickel worth more than luxury mansions, private jets, or entire businesses. And yes, that's why people search endlessly. That's why coin roll hunters hoard 1977 nickels, carefully weighing each one, analyzing every detail with magnification tools, hoping they'll be the next legendary discovery. Now, while you're absorbing all of this, remember, this is just coin number one. The next coin, the 1977 D nickel, has a completely different story, involving Denver minting quirks, die polishing accidents, and a mysterious batch that collectors still debate. And even though I won't reveal its value yet, let me tell you this. If the 1977 nickel feels unbelievable, the next one takes the shock to an entirely new level. But for now, let's wrap up this first coin's journey with the final important point collectors must know. The 1977 nickel teaches us that treasure doesn't always glitter brightly. Sometimes it's dull, worn, gray metal. Sometimes it sits quietly, unnoticed. Sometimes it passes through thousands of hands before someone finally recognizes its secret. And that someone might be you. Because this coin, this ordinary 1977 nickel, can still be found in circulation today, mixed in with billions of others, hiding in the shadows, waiting for someone curious enough to look closely. And if you thought this one was valuable, the next coin is even more unbelievable.